When you look in the mirror, do you see a work of art or an ugly duckling? Hi, I'm Rebecca and I love makeovers. I travel the world with my camera, uncovering the real definition of beautiful and capturing makeovers and photo shoots of girls who've been made over from the inside out by the author of beauty, Jesus Christ. Together, we're redefining what it means to be beautiful. Join me for Radical Makeovers. Super excited to share this episode with you. We're talking about courageous beauty, and we're going to two completely different places, and both require a bit of courage in completely different ways. The first place is Southeast Alaska. So we're gonna go hang out there and have some adventures. And then we're gonna jump the pond and go to Europe. In fact, we're gonna go to Paris, France, which is like, what, the fashion capital of the world? Stay tuned as we talk about courageous beauty today on Radical Makeovers. One of my favorite places, Southeast Alaska, and I'm just wearing ripped up jeans and scruffy hair because in Alaska nobody really cares about fashion or what you wear because they're all concerned about being comfortable so they can experience the beauty of the great outdoors. Sometimes the beauty around us is greater than anything that we could put together ourselves. So I started thinking about that in the context of God. Like, what if we could be so consumed with His love that we would just go, wow. And we would care a little bit less about ourselves and what we look like because we'd be so consumed with how awesome He is. And I think we can do that. It's just kind of like these mountains today. Sometimes you can't always see them because they're covered by the clouds, and you just have to believe that they're there. Just like sometimes we can't always see God, but when we believe that He's there, eventually the clouds lift and we see that He's been there all the time. So I think if we choose to live that way, it's kind of like courageous beauty. So I got this crazy idea. I was like, okay, what if we did like this fashion photo shoot on the beach and did kind of like this Celtic warrior sort of thing? What would that look like?
Even though outward beauty is praised in our society, I think that how you treat people, especially people who you don't know, really shows your inner beauty. It's fine to treat your friends and your family with love, but people that you don't even know, people that you meet on the street, how you treat them really shows your inner beauty and who you really are inside.
I think personally having confidence in yourself, just to be who you are, definitely in today's society, just with the magazines and with the makeup and Photoshop, having all the idols that people look up to and not finding those in yourself is very hard to have confidence or that right mindset.
So today I'm driving through the wilderness of Alaska. I'm going out to a ranch. I have to drive about an hour to get there, and then I have to either walk 2 miles to get in, or they have to bring you in by boat or by truck. And we're gonna hang out with some of the horse wranglers and talk horses and God and people's stories and just have an amazing time.
Eko Ranch is a children's Bible camp located in Juneau, Alaska. Basically, our goal here is to just spread the gospel to kids. One of the ways we do that is through the horse program, which is where my husband and I come in. We are the directors here. Jack is a horse trainer. So we have a very unique herd of horses here, kind of constantly working on them so that kids who have zero horse experience can come here and have just a wonderful experience. So something unique about the horses here, they are free range. Every morning we do roundup. So they have several hundred acres here that's part of the camp property, and then we are surrounded by forest property as well. So sometimes it's harder than others to find them, but we go out each morning, round them up, use them for the day. Then we keep in 2 horses to do the roundup the next day, and at night everything else is turned back loose. So I feel like horses really lend themselves in letting us see kind of how we relate to God and how He relates to us. You know, when we start out, these horses know nothing. The first step is just building that trust with them. Proverbs 3 tells us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, acknowledge Him in all of your ways, and He will make straight your paths." And that's really the first step with these horses, is gaining their trust. Just like we have to trust in the Lord that He's going to lead us the right way, we have to get these horses to trust us and see that you know, what we're teaching them is good, and that gentle correction, but that's just the way the Lord is with us. Starting out, we tend to want to go our own way and do our own thing, and then we have to yield to His correction and see that the ways that He has for us is good.
I've always trained horses, just like training, making them better for shows. I was working really hard on these horses, and they're getting really responsive and awesome. And I'm like, wow, these are great horses, you know, like then a kid would get on them and, you know, just their hands would be like, ah. So I'm just like, what is the point in this? And the whole reason of doing this is not about the horses. It's about training the horses well enough that a kid can get on them and hear about God. It's so fulfilling to know that I'm training horses for a purpose now. It's the most rewarding thing I've done, I think.
We have girls come from all over the country who have horse experience and just have a love for horses and a love for kids. So putting that team together and making the best program we can to minister to these kids is kind of what it looks like for us.
So in this Outback edition of Radical Makeovers, we're talking about courageous beauty. You know, it's so easy to look around at all God's creation and just see the magnificent things that He's made and just be like, wow, God, you're so awesome. And maybe everything's going great in your life and you just have so much to be thankful for. It's really easy to praise God then. But what happens if your heart breaks and you suddenly find your life falling apart? Well, the next girl that we interviewed has a story just like that. So stay tuned as we talk about courageous beauty.
I grew up in a Christian home in Colorado. My dad owned a ranch down there. We got about 3,000 acres worth of ranch land, and me and my brother helped out with the ranch pretty much every day. We accepted Christ when we were very young because he was cool. I thought I should do whatever he does because that's cool. You know, he would come in at night and be like, I got your back if you need anything, like let's talk through stuff, you know, pretty much every night, and just like always being the big brother and defending me against all the other guys. Being a half hour away from town and away from anybody I really knew, I didn't really have that many friends growing up just because it was constantly on the ranch working. I started showing like English, hunt seat, hunter hack. I would go to state for those things and I would win a lot. This camp I went to in Colorado, I went with my best friend, and me and my best friend were called out and called to the office, and they finally pulled me into a room and my parents were there, and I thought I was in really big trouble. I found out that my brother had passed away and he was accidentally shot. I just didn't believe it, but then they were like, yeah, the funeral is like really soon. I was like, what? And so that kind of just rocked my world because me and my brother were really close. Being so alone on a 3,000 acre ranch is just like really hard. I started just trying to excel in the things like my horseback riding and just finding that fulfillment in those things that I had, in those talents that I had. Like pretty much everyone has an idol in their lives. Like it doesn't matter what it is, and mine was definitely that, and it was me, so self-centered, and I was putting all my trust in those things to make me happy. I went to the master's college because I had a music scholarship there. Found out that there were people there who were believers and they had joy. And I was like, wow, joy would be awesome right now. I thought to myself, why can't I have that joy that all these people have? Why can't I trust like David trusts in the Lord through trials and hard times? That's where I prayed and asked the Lord to be in my life and to actually have that relationship with Him. Like, I wanted to read my Bible, I wanted to pray, I wanted to find that fulfillment in Christ, and I did. Like, apologize to my mom for all the things, like sneaking out of the house and having boyfriends behind her back, and just kind of like those past things that I had in my past life, and just asking for forgiveness.
To come before God and submit and say that I am sinful and ask for forgiveness is just something that is beautiful.
I definitely think it takes courage to live that way and to practice that in everyday life. That's really hard.
Find the love in people around you and seek out those people who won't judge you, and find that love and beauty in God.
So now we're going to leave the adventure in Alaska and discover some other courage that takes place in a little bit more of a fashion-conscious city. If you've ever wanted to go to Paris, France, and just hang out, see the coffee shops, experience the city, well, today is your day because we're going there next. We've got 3 young women, and I can't wait to share their stories with you next on Radical Makeovers.
I'm originally from Brazil, and now I'm in Paris as a missionary with YWAM. When I was around 4 years old, my parents got divorced. For me, it was kind of hard because I grew up without having my father close to me all the time. We moved to another state, so we weren't really together. For many years, I was really insecure and I couldn't make decisions. I always looking for someone else to decide for me. Many times I was comparing myself to others, or to my sister, or to my friends. When I was around 16, God decided to talk to me that He wanted to be my father. I didn't really understand how He would be this father that He wanted to be. He started to present Himself as a father of love, and He started to fulfill all of the things that I was lacking, that I was missing. I can just say that it helped me to be more confident. I remember that when He spoke to me to go to another country to be a missionary, I was afraid because it was a big step and I was so scared. And no one around me could even decide that for me. I had to make that decision in my life. And when I went for the first time to the first place, it was so huge step, and I discovered that I could dream with Him, I could be confident with Him, and have the security that He is with me all the time, that I don't have to be afraid to take steps, even if it is a risk, but it's a risk that I will take with Him. Don't be afraid to be God created you to be.
I always knew God was there, but somewhere in a space, somewhere really far. My name is Lucy. I'm from Switzerland. My mom, she was Catholic, and my dad was Mennonite, so I went to both of the churches. I will always remember my first day of school. It was just, for me, the end of the world, because I was like, wow, my mom, she's leaving me here, and like, why? You abandoned me in a place where I don't know anyone. And really quickly, I just, it's like, I just In my classroom, the other students, they didn't really like me the way I was because I was shy. People would ask me questions, but I would freak out. I was kind of scared of people. And I remember going to school and wearing also the clothes of my brothers because we didn't have much money. So people would just mock me, would just throw things at me. They would burn my hair. They would, do mean things. This started to affect my health. And I start to have a panic attack. Many times we had to go quickly to the doctor, to the hospital, because I would just stop to breathe and thinking, okay, that's the end of my life. Like, I have no reason to live. I don't know why I should live because people don't love me. People don't accept me for who I am. So I left my home when I was 16. And I remember I entered my workplace and I was completely different. I was talking to everyone, where I was shy, to the completely opposite. I discovered, oh, people love me. And I start to have many friends, and we would go to party, we would drink a lot and be free. Inside I was like, but this is not me. For me it was like such a confusion. What was my place in this world? What was my goal? What's the future look like for me? If I have to all the time wear a mask, that is life, My parents, they changed the church where they were going every Sunday. So I went with them to this new church, and I just discovered people who they were happy, like with so much joy, and I could see people who were confident in who they are. And for me that was something completely new, to see people who knew their identity. And there I start to hear about Jesus, that Jesus, he was close to us. He was this God that was here, present in our life. He was in us. And for me, it was a brand new thing to think, oh, I'm a daughter of God, of the King of Kings, of the Lord of Lords. What? For me, I continue to go to party and just, to seek for this real freedom. But I could see that all the people that I will meet, they didn't have any purpose in life. So I choose to give everything to Jesus, just to say, okay, Jesus, like, do something. Tell me who I am. I wanted to do a school to learn more about him, and I did a disciple training school with YWAM, Youth with a Mission. They asked this question, ask God how he loves you. And for me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask God, how does he love me? Like, it's weird. And I didn't expect to receive anything. And I saw this picture of lollipops in a heart. I could see God giving me these lollipops. And, for me, I just love sweet thing. And I was like a baby just receiving, oh my God, this is for me. Maybe it sounds so simple, but for me, it was like, wow, you love me, like you care about me, you even want to give me a lollipop. And I realized, wow, you accept me just how I am. Also, just to think that the King of Kings, he lives in me, the one who gave everything to save the world, the Creator is in me. And when I discovered that he was here with me, wow, even if people they reject me, I know that I've been accepted by this God will live in me.
So now I want to talk to you about real beauty in a very cool place. I'm standing here in France next to a huge cathedral, and this is the Coronation Cathedral, where the royalty has been crowned for years and years and years. And next to me is a statue of a very special young lady who helped make some of that happen, and her name is Joan of Arc. She was a warrior who fought incredible battles at a young age. She lived in a little country village, and God started speaking to her when she was about 13 and giving her these visions and saying, you're going to save France. You're going to march before the armies and deliver them, because the whole country was at war during that time and they were losing. And so at the age of 16, she started going to some of the generals and people in the army, and they didn't believe her. But she didn't give up. She went back and she found some soldiers who would believe her, and they brought her to the guy who was going to be the next king, and she shared her heart and vision, and God gave her so much favor and so much wisdom that he actually gave her an army and said, okay, let's see what you can do. And so she started winning battles. She came to this very place, to this cathedral, and brought that man who was going to be the next king, and she was part of helping him get his coronation and becoming king. She said, I must be at the king's side. There will be no help for the kingdom if not from me. Although I would have rather remained spinning wool at my mother's side, yet must I go, and I must do this thing, for my Lord wills that it is so. And I just really felt last night as I was praying that God was saying, there are people out there who are Joan of Arcs. You know, Joan of Arc was only 13. There are young people that God is putting passion and destiny into, and he's calling you, and he's even speaking to you now, some things that he wants you to do for his kingdom. And so I just want to encourage you to run after his calling and don't give up. Joan of Arc was very, very persistent, even when people didn't believe her, because her confidence wasn't in herself, it was in God.
I'm from a Muslim family. I grew up with this feeling in my heart that Jesus was not just a prophet, so I was always asking questions, but I never got an answer. And why? This God that we were praying to, why didn't he have love? There was something I was searching for, but I didn't understand why. I was a girl in the world. I was someone that you would call a sex friend. I had a boyfriend every day. I was even really close to making a pornographic movie. And I knew it was not good, but I didn't know how to get out. For me, a man was just like a piece of meat. I was so ashamed that I didn't tell people. I was afraid that they would misunderstand me, that I would be judged, until I met the Lord. And there something started to grow in my heart. Purification. Holiness. Because God is holy. I met a young woman in the street, and she was telling me that on Sunday she was going to church. Would I like to go with her? I thought, sure, why not? So I went, and there was a guy giving his testimony. He was a former Muslim. And I think from this day, God was putting something in my heart, but I was refusing. There was a fight between my flesh and the Spirit of God. So many things happened, and I found myself living in the street. I lost my flat. I lost my business. I had so much pride in me that I couldn't ask anyone for help. But it was there that God, in his goodness, touched my heart. I kept going to church, and suddenly, during a time of worship, I fell on the floor and was crying and crying and crying. And I bowed down in front of God and asked forgiveness. But I also understood that I needed to humble myself, that I needed to seek for his presence, that prayer and reading the Word was not enough, but I needed to fast and seek his presence, to purify myself, to change my mentality and my view of things. And in the church where I was, there was a team of women. And there were 3 days of fasting, so we prayed, we worshipped, we read the Word, and we listened to God, and God started to purify. At one point, God just took me, and I fell on the floor, and when I stood up, I was at peace. There was such a lightness, like I was flying. And it was just beautiful. It was like I was changed. I was not the same anymore. I was a new person. I didn't know how to love. Now I know how to love. I didn't have compassion, but now I can cry for everyone. And God can do anything through us because he chooses us and he loves us. And if you told me that 8 years ago, I would say no. This is not possible. And what I wish for everyone on earth is to be loved by God and to give everything for God, to give our lives to him. Because today, I don't live for myself. I live for him.
definition of beautiful was, how can I get some guy to like me?
Beauty was, you know what I would see on TV or in a magazine.
Along with my brother passing away, I had a lot of like eating disorders. I pretty much ran 5 miles every other day and then pumped iron for like the days around that. My body was an idol to me, and so beauty was an idol too. And I should be idolizing Christ, and my body was on the throne and not his.
Models, you know, would have all the men that they want, a lot of money, they will be rich, they will go in holidays all the time.
Beautiful to me now means a woman of God, and it's that fire, it's that pull, it's that love for Christ.
Beauty for me, it's something pure. Just enjoy small thing in life. I think this is beauty.
And that's what I consider beautiful, is just a joyful person of God.
So I'm here in the cathedral. Behind me is another statue of Joan of Arc. And this one is really interesting because it shows her as a warrior in her armor. Joan's confidence in her passion didn't rest in what people said about her. It wasn't even so much that she believed in herself, because she had fears and she had struggles, but her confidence was in something bigger. It was in God, who had called her to her destiny, and she was just walking in obedience to follow him. So there's a scripture that says, it is better to trust the Lord than to put your confidence in man. And I think that's really beautiful, because in our culture today, beauty is confidence. It's knowing who you are. It's your personality. It's carrying yourself with a state of confidence, right? But that doesn't last. And what people think doesn't last. And even ourselves, we don't have enough strength in ourselves to truly be able to fulfill our destiny. It has got to come from God. And so Joan ended up being a martyr for her faith. She was burned at the stake because she fulfilled what God called her to do. But in the big picture, that doesn't matter. Here she is, being reverenced and embraced for who she really was, because she did what God called her to do. And in the big picture, that's all that matters, and that is truly beautiful.
Okay, just come and just walk past me.
You're so funny.
My dad has blue eyes, my mom has green eyes. So you have blue-green eyes.
With over 10,000 titles, it would be impossible for us to show you everything on pureflix.com. But let's give it a shot.